Chapter 1. Background and Causes. Let's get straight to the point. Why did three European powers, Germany, France, and Spain, have to sit down together to discuss how to untangle a new generation fighter project? In the military world, there is a truth that is passed around like a joke. One country can build a bicycle. Two countries can build a car, but three countries building an aircraft will produce a pile of controversial papers. And this is true for the Future Combat Air Systems project, Europe's most ambitious sixth-generation fighter program. 1.1 FCAS project, the dream of European defense autonomy. If we look at the European defense map, we will see a reality. Most countries in the North Atlantic bloc still depend on U.S. weapons, especially the F-35 Lightning II fighter. Italy, Poland, the Netherlands, Norway have all bought or ordered this type of aircraft. That makes Germany and France, the two pillars of the European military, feel challenged in their honor. They decided, we need to have our own fighter. We cannot rely on the United States forever. And so the FCAS project was born, with the main participation of Germany, France, and Spain. The goal: to create a sixth-generation fighter superior to the F-35 and capable of competing with the sixth-generation fighters of the United States, as well as Russia and China. 1.3. The cause of the deadlock, when national ego is bigger than jet engines. In fact, the biggest problem is not technology, but ego. France, with the Dassault Aviation Group, wants to take the lead, because they have a tradition of manufacturing Rafale fighters which are favored by many countries. Germany believes the investment is mostly ours. We must have equal rights, even greater rights. Spain, although smaller, plays the role of balancer, not wanting to be left out. A specific example, just who will design the cockpit, has caused them to argue for months. France wants Dassault to take full responsibility, while Germany wants Airbus to have a say. This story is like three people building a house, but one insists on placing the windows facing east, the other insists on placing the windows facing west, and the third just cares about the paint color. 1.4 External pressure, the United States and the Russian Federation. On the defense map, Europe's position lies between the United States on one side, with its nuclear umbrella protecting NATO, and Russia on the other with its huge arsenal and the ongoing war in Ukraine. While Europe is still arguing about who will paint the wings and who will mount the engines, the United States has sold hundreds of F-35s around the world. Russia has launched the Su-57 and promised the Su-75, while China has tested the J-20 and the J-31 project. That makes the FCAS project a matter of survival. If it does not hurry, Europe will forever just be a buyer of weapons instead of a seller of weapons.
Chapter 2. Complex Relationships and Backstage Calculations. If in Chapter 1 we saw the overall picture of the stuckness in the European New Generation Fighter project, then in Chapter 2, let's delve into the complex relationships behind it: politics, economics, military, and national pride. 1. Everyone wants to be the big brother. In the defense world, money is not everything, but whoever has the core technology has the final say. The problem here is that France, Germany, and Spain all want to play the role of the big brother in the project, but how can there be three kings in one kingdom? France wants Dassault Aviation to be the center of development. They are confident in the Mirage Rafale bloodline and want to keep the main steering wheel. Germany believes that their engine technology, electronic systems, and finances are stronger, so there is no need to accept being the underdog in the project. Spain is smaller, but does not want to be considered a supporting actor. They want a piece of the cake to ensure that their defense industry is not overshadowed. The difficulty lies in the fact that each country wants to divide the pie in the most beneficial way for themselves, while a new generation fighter cannot be assembled buffet style. Whatever is wanted is taken. It requires absolute synchronization from the engine, airframe, radar, weapon system to integrated artificial intelligence. 2. Political interests mixed with military interests. An indispensable factor is internal politics. In France, any failure in a defense project can be exploited by the opposition. In Germany, the defense budget has been heavily criticized, especially after the conflict in Ukraine, so people are very sensitive to the idea of throwing money out the window. Spain sees this as an opportunity to put its foot on the big table, affirming its position in the European Union. If you imagine the European defense map, it is like a three-way chessboard where each side thinks not only about the present, but also about the next 20 to 30 years when the new generation of fighters officially enters into service. 3. External pressure, the shadow of the US and Russia. In addition to internal conflicts, this trio is also under great pressure from the two major military powers in the world. US. Currently, the US is leading with the F-35s. Washington, of course, does not want Europe to be too self-sufficient. Each F-35 sold to Europe not only brings huge profits, but also ties NATO tightly into the US orbit. Russia. After launching the Su-57 and promoting the Su-75 checkmate, Russia implicitly sent a message that it would not sit idly by while Europe developed freely. It can be said that Europe is standing between two mountains. One side is the US with available technology, the other is Russia with security pressure, and itself is three men, one horse, not moving in sync. Chapter 3. Consequences, Opportunities, and the Future. If Chapter 2 exposes the complex calculations, Chapter 3 will answer the question, if Europe overcomes the deadlock, what will it gain, and if it fails, what will it lose? 1. Positive outlook. Europe has its own warhorse. If the trio of France, Germany, and Spain can untie the knot, the new generation of fighters will help Europe escape its dependence on the US in the strategic Air Force sector, create a technological boost for the entire defense and civil industry, just like the Apollo project once made the US explode in semiconductor technology. Increase international position. Europe can sell weapons to other countries competing directly with the US and Russia. Imagine a world map with hotspots, from the East Sea, the Middle East, to Africa. If Europe has its own sky warrior, they will not need to always buy F-35s, but can make their own strategic decisions. 2. Negative scenario, melted dream. On the contrary, if it fails, huge budget goes down the drain. Tens of billions of euros turn into bitter lessons. Loss of political prestige. France, Germany, and Spain will be heavily criticized by voters. Deeper dependence on the US. At that time, the only option is to buy F-35s and accept the role of customer instead of creator. A bitter example is the previous Eurofighter Typhoon project. Although considered a success, the development process was long, expensive, and was still criticized as not up to par compared to American aircraft. If the scenario repeats, the new generation may fail even more miserably. Long-term significance, more than an aircraft. Looking deeper, this project is not just about making an aircraft, but also a measure of the solidarity of the European Union. If the three countries cannot coordinate with each other, how can the bloc cope with global security challenges? The new generation fighter project, therefore, is like a mirror, reflecting European pride in wanting to stand shoulder to shoulder with the US, Russia, China, reflecting internal divisions when each country wants a larger share of the benefits. 4. Conclusion. The flight has not taken off. In the end, the question remains, can the European trio land safely in the negotiations so that the project does not remain on paper forever? This story teaches us a profound lesson. In war or peace, technology and solidarity are always the keys. A fighter jet flies not only in the sky, but also on political will, on the trust of people, and the self-respect of a continent. Summary of the full article. The article has analyzed Chapter 1, Background, deadlock, and the new generation fighter project of France, Germany, and Spain. Chapter 2, the intricate relationships, conflicting interests, and pressure from the US and Russia. Chapter 3, future scenarios, political, military, and technological significance of the project. This is not only a story about defense, but also a reminder of the power of unity. Because if 3 European countries cannot agree to make an aircraft, can they agree to protect the continent against global security challenges? If you find this analysis interesting, please like, share, and subscribe to the History and War channel to explore more fascinating stories about history and war around the world.